It's a June garden tour. Hi guys, it's Courtney of Squire Studio Suburban Farm, and I am here on this 20th day of June to show you guys a full garden tour. I am market gardening / urban farming here in southern New Mexico, and this is my second year, but first full year or full season trying to establish a market garden in a suburban backyard. So thanks for following along, and if you've been watching the channel for any length of time, then you know I like to try to do a full garden tour once a month. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check out the garden. I just like to do a full view of what things are looking like, so I can just kind of see how it's changed from month to month. So here's a full overview of how things are looking. Definitely some change since last month. A few things have been pulled out and some new things are really starting to take off. So we're just going to start here at this edge of the garden, the raised bed under the trellis, and then work our way over there to that side of the garden. This is my gladiola bed, and these are officially done. They just finished up this last week. There's a couple that I didn't end up cutting out of this bed. If you don't know, I'm trying to urban farm, cut flowers, and also a little bit of produce for my family and some to take to the farmer's market. So this is the gladiola bed, and there was a few out of here I didn't cut, and those have officially fallen over and are starting to die back. So these are pretty much done for this season. In this bed, I also have some Shasta daisies, and I knew that Shasta daisies were a perennial, and I thought I was gonna get flowers this year. I'm not so sure that I will, now that we're already towards the end of June. These Shasta daisies I'm really looking forward to having next year, but I might need to end up moving them. What I've noticed is in the heat of the day, these daisies are completely like wilted and flopped over just from the New Mexico sun. So this area where they're planted gets shade earliest in the day on this side of the house, and I thought it would be sufficient to help keep them perky, but so far that has not proven to be the case. I'm sure once it cools down they'll be perfectly fine, but they look a little rough during the heat of the day here in the summer. I think what I want to end up doing is putting a couple loofah here. I originally had some runner beans here to kind of start to grow up this trellis, but my ducks ate them out of this bed, so they're not there anymore. So I'm thinking about planting 2 loofah here, and I'm sure that they'll fill this trellis up pretty quickly. Here on the other side, I have transplanted in some mint that someone gave me, and these were poppies that have been here since the beginning of spring. This one has died back completely, but those two still have some green on them, so I'm just actually going to leave them. And I'll give you guys a closer look. So this is like a little warning if you don't like insects, but you can see this is something that I dealt with last year too. There's just lots and lots and lots of ants, and they seem to really like the habitat of my yard. I don't know what to do to combat them. I tried diatomaceous earth last year. I tried chili powder. I tried grits, but I think there's like a colony forming here because I can see several ants that have wings. So I think that might be a sign. Okay, so we have the mint over here, which was given to me. And the first few days that it was out here, it was rough. And I know people claim that you can't kill mint, but that came very close, just from the transplant shock and the heat. Along this side of the trellis, I have some pickling cucumbers, which I think I've gotten these out here kind of late, but because we have such a long growing season, I think it'll be okay, and hopefully these will start producing by the end of summer or beginning of fall. My little buckwheat patch over here, I've seeded this a couple more times, and I think I'm just going to have to start seeding it more heavily. I got like 2 pounds of buckwheat, and I think the heat is actually causing it to come up kind of slow. Even though buckwheat is more of a summer cover crop, I think the heat is just causing it to grow kind of slowly. next to the buckwheat patch over in this bed. This is my sugar baby watermelon. I actually harvested my first melon off of this yesterday. In fact, it was underripe, but it was still enjoyable. And back behind this watermelon vine, these are loofah. They were transplanted last week, and I probably need to fertilize them because they're starting to look a little bit yellow. I think part of that is just transplantation shock, since loofah aren't a big fan of being transplanted. These are pink banana squash, and these are lilies that did not do very well this year. That is a random piece of corn. And then the rest of this bed is empty. I'm not sure what I want to fill it in with yet. Okay, so this is the opposite side of that watermelon and loofah raised bed. Here on the other side, this is the very first pickling cucumber that I got out here, and it's probably been out here maybe a month and has no cucumbers on it. There's been some that have popped up. As you can see, that tiny little cucumber, but I think just the pollinators have just missed this vine, and so none of the cucumbers that have set fruit have actually developed fully. I'm hoping now that some of my, I have my sunflowers, my chocolate cherry sunflower that actually turned out to be more of a red sunflower, is in full bloom, which has brought a lot of the pollinators. The zucchini is in full bloom. You guys will see that in just a moment. But that has brought a ton of pollinators as well. So hopefully now that the bees are here, they'll start pollinating this cucumber plant because I really want some cucumbers this year. You can see there's also the determinate Roma tomatoes in here, some Swiss chard, and then there's a couple radishes here at the bottom that are going to seed. I have not even been harvesting the Swiss chard. I harvested maybe like one harvest for my family, sauteed it, chopped it up, sauteed it, and put it in some meatloaf, and it was delicious. I just haven't had an urge to, let me show you guys this. So I haven't really had an urge to harvest the Swiss chard, but this is how it's doing. And then this is what I mean when I say I think there's a colony of ants starting to make their abode here in my raised bed. You can see they're kind of swarming this Swiss chard. I don't know what they're doing, but they're all over that. So last year I had an issue with the ants bringing tons and tons of aphids, and the aphids got my okra primarily, and then also my pumpkin vines. So this year there's still like tons of ants, but what they're doing is originally they were bringing the aphids, but my garden is way more planted out than it was last year. So I'm getting a lot of beneficial insects. The Asian lady beetles, I think they're called. I'm also getting actual ladybugs, and they have been taking care of the aphids. So the ants are still here, but they're not causing as much aphid pressure as I had last year. But they're just swarming all over the place, which I don't know if that can lead to problems or not. So next I have these two raised beds here, and they're right next to this raised bed with the arch trellis. These I haven't been taking care of as much as I should. I skipped a lot of days watering those, and so most of these red tomatoes that y'all see on here actually have blossom end rot, and I've just left them on the plant. So I probably need to pull those off because that's probably not good for the plant, putting the energy into the fruit that have blossom end rot. So I'm going to do that at some point. These are all my calendula. I have a few on the other side. They're still producing, but what they're doing is a lot of them are opening, and then by the end of the day they started going to seed. So I'm still harvesting some. Like I can get that one here in a bit, but the flowers aren't as big as they were when it was cooler outside. Some of these yellow ones, I think these are called Snow Princess, are still producing like really gorgeous full flowers. So I'm going to harvest that one here in a bit, and you can see I need to weed as well. Let's go ahead and check that bed out over there. More sad looking tomatoes. Yeah, I'm probably going to pull all these fruit off and then prune the tomato plants a little bit and see if they'll set fruit again right at the end of summer. So these are determinate, but I do have some other determinate I was growing that set multiple flushes of fruit. So while they don't get super tall, they do get bushy, and I'm hoping that they'll set multiple um, sets of fruit, but we shall see. This is a hollyhock that is going to seed, and then down there I have some lemon balm. There's more Swiss chard over there, and that was a shorty sunflower. Okay, let's take a look over here. That was a sunflower bed for cut flower production. You can see it's kind of overgrown now. I've cut all the sunflowers out, and I need to go through and just pull out all that grass that grew up while the sunflowers were there, and then I'll probably replant that in a couple weeks. I just planted this bed this past week. The zinnias have been here for maybe like a week and a half, 2 weeks. So this is just a mix of different zinnias here in the front row, and then I have 3 rows of pro-cut sunflowers behind the zinnias, which some of them have held up well to the last couple days that have been in the triple digits, and then some of them you can see it's kind of spotty in some places. These are about 4 inches apart, but in some places the sunflowers kind of burnt up during the afternoon heat. And then in this bed here is a succession of sunflowers it's been in for several weeks, and they'll probably be ready to harvest probably mid-July, beginning to July. And then over here is the zucchini bed. So I have 8 zucchini here, and they have been pumping out zucchini like nobody's business. So I have a basket full of zucchini sitting on my dining room table that I need to shred and freeze, but I've been getting a couple zucchini a week, which has been really good. I interplanted some zinnias here, and they're a little bit different than what I thought they would be, but I like them. And I've been trying to keep the plants pruned back, but you can see like some of the leaves. These are just like the mottled coloration, but you can see the edges of some of the leaves are kind of like starting to get that brown and yellowing. When they start to do that, I go ahead and just cut them off, and that helps bring more airflow to the plant, and the plant's not trying to put energy into keeping an unhealthy leaf alive, and then I can put more energy into the fruit. And you can see I have a zucchini right there that I need to harvest, which I was not like that yesterday. So they grow extremely quickly, and then there's another one right here that's starting to come along. The ladybugs and the Asian beetles have been really liking this patch. They've kind of just been nestling in the leaves of these yellow zinnias. So I haven't seen any aphids over here, and I think they're just taking care of that issue if there are aphids being brought here. Next to the zucchinis, I have my Kajari melons. Let me take you guys a little bit closer. Okay, so these I have been wanting to grow these since last year. They're taking a little bit longer to ripen than I originally thought they would take, but I really think it's going to be worth the wait. They're so cute. I can't wait to cut into our very first one. But there's 6 of them here on this little trellis, you can see. I want to put a few on the arch trellis that I have on the other side, so I have more seeds started already. Okay, so if you've grown a Kajari melon before, let me know what's the average amount of fruit that you get per vine, because right now what it's looking like for me is 1 fruit per vine, and I've seen multiple female flowers on each vine, but it seems that once they set that first fruit and it's starting to grow, they just put all that energy into that fruit, and so I'm like, I can't harvest the fruit until it's ripe, and so it's not going to put any energy into setting any more fruit. I don't know if that means I need to fertilize. So if you grow Kajari melon and you normally fertilize it, I think I'm going to fertilize this week, and I usually just use fish emulsion. That's what I'm going to use. It's not a super heavy fertilizer, but I'm going to use that and see. But yeah, I would love to know, if you have grown Kajari melon in the past, how many fruit are you getting per vine? Because I was hoping I was going to get multiple, so that way I only had to start like a handful of seeds, but then get like a ton of melon. But right now, what it's looking like is just one fruit per vine. Okay, and then across from the Kajari melon, I have this green bean bed, which all the fruit on those bean plants has pretty much set. There's one that's just starting to get a few flowers, but most of these have set fruit and the beans are starting to grow. These are more pink banana squash, and then these are the lilies, which grew in all their splendor and glory, and they're done. But I'm leaving these here until they die back, and then I'm thinking about digging them up and moving them to a more permanent location. This one here has some webbing on it. I don't know if there's like a spider or spider mites, but I don't know if y'all can see that webbing. But once they die back, I think I'm going to dig them up and move them. Here's the beet bed, which is looking really, really pitiful. This is where I had garlic. And then there's a couple heads of lettuce here, but that's all been pulled up. The garlic has been harvested and it's curing right now. And then the beets, I'm just leaving there. I don't plan on harvesting them to eat. They're just there to have something in the ground for, what do they call it? For the microbes in the soil, to have some roots in the soil. So until I have something to plant here, I'm just leaving those beets in the ground. Over here is where I had snapdragons and buttercrunch lettuce interplanted. The lettuce all went to seed, so I pulled it all up. I went ahead and let the snapdragons, I kind of want to see if they will reseed themselves. So I let these yellow ones go to seed. There's some pink and bronze, and I'm just letting them go. I've been watering a little here and there, but not super consistently. And then next to that, this is where spinach was at one point, but now there's a couple zinnias interplanted with some pickling cucumbers. And I'm going to try to grow these up, these tomato cages, and see how that does. Over there, I'm excited to tell you about that. So this is the Silver Yamato watermelon. It is an heirloom variety. I got the seeds from Baker Creek, and it is a watermelon with a cream colored flesh. It's supposed to have like a really light sweet flavor and kind of like a creamy texture to it. The thing about it is, this is because the flesh is white, I'm like trying to figure out like how will I really be able to gauge the ripeness. But I know with my sugar baby, I tried waiting until that tendril dried up, and when I harvested it, it still wasn't fully ripe. So I am going to wait for the tendril on this to dry up before I harvest, and then I'm probably going to give it another week and not water it, and then see if that helps with the ripeness. But I'm like, how can I really know if the flesh doesn't turn red? But I'm super excited about this one. It's the Silver Yamato. It's an heirloom watermelon, so I really want to make sure I wait until it's ripe before I harvest it, because I would love to save seeds. So I'll give you guys a closer look at this. So you can see on the vine, there's like a couple other, what would be the beginnings of more watermelon. This is actually 2 plants here, planted in this little hill. Oh, here we go. So there's actually 2 plants down there, and I figured if I put 2 next to each other on a little hill, they would have a better chance at being pollinated. But so far I only have 1 fruit, but you can see there's lots of little females on here. So this is the one that's most recently got pollinated, and the flesh is, or not the flesh, the rind is gorgeous, like this light green with the dark. I guess these are called striations or stripes, I don't know, but it's so pretty. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the inside looks like once it's ready to harvest. And I have it kind of trellised a little bit. It's not really heavy enough for this to provide support, but it's there, so when it gets heavier. And then this is the tendril that I'm supposed to be watching for whenever it's dried up. That'll tell me when this is ready to harvest. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until this is fully dried, and then this is dried too, because on my sugar baby I did not wait for this part to dry. I waited for this, but not this. So I think I need to wait for both. And this is the lady of the hour. This is what was originally from, I got the original seeds from a seed swap, and they were labeled chocolate cherry. And some of them did grow into that dark, deep dark burgundy like chocolate cherry. And then some of them were more like this, which I guess is considered more of like a sunset style sunflower, or some people would call it like autumn beauty. And these are so gorgeous. I pinched these right after I put them in the ground, and it branched out like this. So these are taller than I am, and I'm 5'3", and these are slightly taller than me. But there's two plants here, this one, and then there's one there. So I think they're about a foot apart. But this is how they branched out. I think last year I planted them 2 feet apart, and they did not branch like this. The branches were much shorter, but I did not pinch them last year. And I think pinching them and then bringing them close together really helped the branches kind of like reach up and get a lot taller. And I'm not seeing as many bees on these as I did last year, but I am seeing a ton of, well, it might be the same one, but I'm seeing hummingbirds come and visit this. So I really like this sunflower. This is one that I'll grow every year. And I think what I want to do next year is just make this whole back wall. Sorry for that close up. I want to make this whole back wall. I guess it's just a privacy wall here. I want to make this whole back wall that sunflower because it can really stand up to the heat. This wall here radiates heat from the middle of the day and then like all into the evening, just because the position of the sun, it beats down on this wall, and then that wall radiates heat. And there's not a whole lot of last year the things that I planted against this wall had a tough time being so close to that heat source, that microclimate, if you will. So I want to do a whole wall of those sunflowers next year. And so I am planning to save seed. I really hope that they got pollinated, and I'm just really looking forward to saving the seed for those and then trying them out again next year. And I think this will be really, really great genetics because the stalk is way thicker than it was last year. The branches are way taller than they were last year. And there's just so much more flowers on each plant than there were last year. So yeah, let me show you what else is going on in this bed. These are some lettuce plants that went to seed like really forever ago, but I'm just leaving them here because I don't know what I want to put in here yet. I'm debating between putting okra, because I do have a couple okra plants back here that you can see. They're like teeny tiny right now. Ooh, butterfly. There's an okra there, an okra there, and that's amaranth, and that's amaranth. And they were growing really well until these sunflowers shot up. And now the sunflowers cast a shadow on all of these for a majority of the day, as do these lettuce plants. So I know I need to pull them out. It's a little bee. I know I need to pull them out so that these okra and amaranth can get a little bit more light. I just don't know what I want to put there yet. And then here's the zinnias. They're like really starting to branch out. There's not a whole lot of flowers because I have been cutting them. But yeah, these plants are way sturdier than I ever imagined, because last year I tried to grow them in pots, which was an epic fail. And the stalks did not get as thick and sturdy as these are right now. So I'm really looking forward to just continuing to see this patch grow. There's my currant bush over there. No fruit this year. So no fruit last year, no fruit this year, but these canes have grown a lot, as have the weeds. So you can see a ton of weeds here, but it's all part of the process. My husband and I decided to try to grow grass in this little patch. So you can see like some of it's starting to really come on. It's looking super green. It's getting to the point where it actually might need to get cut. So, and it looks like, oh, that's unfortunate. It looks like my ducks have pulled out an okra plant. So that was looking good yesterday. You can see there's a little okra on there, but I have several other okra planted, so I let them over here sometimes for pest management, so I can't really be angry when they do stuff like that. Okay, we're almost there. So I'm going to show you guys a couple things a little bit more quickly. This is a pomegranate plant that I got at the farmer's market, as is the one back there. Then I have a roselle hibiscus here and a roselle hibiscus there. This is my sad looking lavender patch. I don't know what to do with this patch because I was watering it consistently, and then I read somewhere that and heard somewhere that lavender doesn't like having its feet wet, and you can actually let it dry out for a bit. So that's what I tried to do, but it doesn't seem to be liking that either. So I'm not really sure how to rehab this, but I am hoping that it survives the summer and can really make a comeback in the fall. So there's the ducks over there doing their thing. I have been seeing some not so friendly looking beetles, so I'm just kind of letting them have free reign for now. This is the bed behind the zinnias and the gorgeous sunflower. This is where I had a majority of my snapdragons. These have almost been cut for the season. There's a couple left in here and a ton of weeds, but I'm also thinking about leaving the plants in here after they're fully cut back. So like this one was fully cut back, and you can see it's starting to look like it's gonna put on more branches come the fall. But I also have a few okra plants here, 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 and here, and here, and all of them have an okra. All of them have one okra on there, so I can come through and probably harvest about 6 or 7 okra. I put some buckwheat and green beans in here. I just direct seeded those, and they're starting to come up. And this is a gomphrena. So there's beets right there that I don't plan on harvesting. They're actually the prettiest beets I've grown. But I tried to like beets, and I couldn't get myself to like them. So the ducks have been nibbling on the beet greens, which the beet greens are actually delicious. Okay, this is our final stop for the evening, this raised bed here. I'll actually be getting another raised bed tomorrow. My husband's gonna pick it up for me. But this raised bed I put in not too long ago, and I'll tell you guys what I have in here and then I'll show you. I have some dahlias that I started from tubers. And then some of the dahlias, I took cuttings from the original tubers because I think there was only 3 tubers in there, and now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 8 plants from 3 tubers, so that's exciting. I just got like 2 more tubers in the mail, and I plan on doing the same thing. I'm hoping that because I'm getting such a late start on the tubers that I just got, that I'll still be able to get some blooms from them, but if not, hopefully at least the tubers will grow in size, and then I can use them again next year and get some blooms from them. So I'm going to give you guys a closer look on what's in this bed. These are eggplants, and they're called pumpkin on a stick. And I originally got these because I want to use the pumpkin-like branch. Well, they look like branches. And then the eggplants actually look like tiny pumpkins. And I want to try to use those in fall floral arrangements. But they take a little bit to set fruit. And then it takes a little bit for the fruit to turn orange. And then you can actually let it dry out. So they'll probably be ready like right in time for fall. And I started these seeds when it was still winter, I think. So in here I also have a eucalyptus. Those are my dahlias there. I staked them this past month, but I haven't wrapped. You can wrap twine around them when you stake them like this, just like in a triangular pattern. And I haven't done that yet because they haven't really started to bush out, but I did want to go ahead and get the stakes in case they were starting to make tubers. That one right there is really starting to bush out, but I haven't staked it yet. So that's probably that's definitely my next priority, is to stake those 3. Because this one is also starting to get blooms, and I think this one is going to become really substantial. I did have my dahlia that was in the zucchini bed bloom already, but I already cut that bloom off, which I'm kind of kicking myself now that I realized I didn't even get any pictures or video of the bloom, but it was absolutely gorgeous. They're called Arabian Night. And then this is Roselle, and that is Roselle, and I think they need to be fertilized because they're starting to yellow a bit. The ones that are directly in the ground look great, and they're still super green. And the ones that are in the raised bed are starting to look a little bit deficient. This is a eucalyptus, which probably needs to be staked up, but I'm super excited. I started several eucalyptus seeds, and now to show for it, I have 2 more significant plants, and then one that's still like super small, but I'm hoping will eventually become something more significant. I believe on this side, in this corner, I think that's another silver Yamato watermelon. I need to figure out some kind of trellising system for that, or I actually might let it just ramble across the ground here. But yeah, I think that might be a roselle. I don't know if that's a roselle or a weed. But if it is a roselle, then I started it the same time I started that one, and that one has definitely grown faster than that. And then here at the very front, I also have a couple marigolds. Before I go, I wanted to show you guys my compost pile. There's something growing in there. There's 3 somethings growing in the compost pile, so that just shows you the resiliency of plants. Now my compost pile is super dry, so you can see it's very, very dry. So I'm actually about to work on cleaning out the duck's pool, and I'll be pouring some of the water here. But I didn't want to pull the plants out because I just wanted to see what they were going to grow to be. And I believe that they might be pumpkins, so we shall see. But here's how they're looking. So guys, thank you so much for joining me on my June garden tour. I actually got to show you all the beds here in my backyard, so I didn't do any cool montages, but maybe for the July garden tour when I have more flowers blooming. But until next time, keep learning and keep growing. Thanks for watching.